Good morning, friends. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. It's starting to drizzle lightly here in Pennsylvania, but I wanted to pop out to all the gardens and take a look at some new flowers that are in bloom. And I thought we would do this as a flower arrangement garden tour to really share what's blooming and looking beautiful in each garden, and then to try to design just a simple piece with some of these beautiful bulbs that are blooming in late April. So here in the hydrangea room, the main star is La Belle Époque tulip, which has now turned this amazing coffee color. Doesn't it look like a beautiful dusty brown rose? And I love the shades of antique rose that it has along the sides. And I paired this with prairie fire crabapple branches, reblooming lilac, columbine, Kodiak black trivella, and a few stems of hellebores. So I believe I used 10 stems of La Belle Époque to make this arrangement. I have 100 La Belle Époque here in the hydrangea room, but what I really need to show you is this amazing concertina iris. I think this is the most beautiful iris that I've ever seen in real life. Can you believe all of these beautiful soft colors? Amazing soft peach. Check out the dusty lavender beards on that almost flow to a gold color. And I just love the color combination here of this concertina iris backed up by La Belle Époque. We have some other bearded iris in this area. My husband always calls them the grape soda bearded iris. They were at our other home, and so I dug some up and spread them around this garden. But I think the color of his grape soda bearded iris pairs really, really nicely with concertina because it's kind of picked up in that inner beard. Isn't that just breathtaking? So lots of nice peaches, soft purples, and greens in the hydrangea room. And so there's kind of what we can expect in terms of an arrangement from this area. And for frame of reference, today is April 27th here in Zone 6B, Southern Pennsylvania. At this point, we're well past the last expected frost, but the weather has been quite strange. It warmed up really quickly in early April and then cooled down. So somehow I have daffodils, tulips, bearded iris, and alliums all blooming at the same time. That's got to be a first. But for now, let's say goodbye to the hydrangea room, where it looks like Rocky is taking a nap under the shade of a lace cap hydrangea. And let's go check out what's blooming in the main flower walk. Now we're on the left-hand side of the main flower walk, and my inspiration for this piece was for it to be a fragrant design to be on our dining room table. So I used some beautiful double file viburnum along with snowball viburnum, and then I tucked in lots of beautiful white lilac for that wonderful fragrance before adding in some Alba bleeding heart, some yellow cheerfulness daffodils, and then I finished the design off with cream upstart tulips and blushing lady tulips. And isn't it just wonderful to be out here and hear the birds and the sound of water? And since the last time you saw the garden, we do have a few new tulips in bloom. Amazing Grace, Amazing Parrot, and Elegant Lady. So let's go take a closer look at those now. So I had paired Amazing Grace, which is this beautiful pink variety, with this lovely Elegant Lady tulip, but in retrospect, I think that was a mistake. I thought their heights were going to be a little bit more similar, and I sprinkled this combination all throughout the main flower walk. I have it repeated twice on the right side of the border and 3 times on the left side of the border, but I think the heights are just too off and the colors don't really mesh together as I had anticipated. So it's not something I would repeat again. But one tulip I'll definitely plant again and plant even more of are these amazing parrot tulips. I just love the hot pink and coral colors. I love the way the petals look like bird feathers. I think I had ordered 50 of these bulbs. Unfortunately, some of the bulbs weren't very good, and I think I had to dispose of some of them because we're definitely not looking at 50 tulips here. But this is such a beautiful variety. I love parrot tulips. I think I could just stare at these all day. So I definitely want to order a lot more of these amazing parrots next year. Here on the bench we have a free-form design that's been created from bleeding hearts, azalea. Then the white and pink tulip is called Infinity. The large peony flowering tulip that's pink is Amazing Grace. And then we also have some purple flag, and Purple Dream is the purple lily tulip that's sunk into the side of the design. This is just a free-form design, something that I would put in the kitchen. I'm not using a floral frog for this, just nice and simple and fresh. I've also been really impressed with Apricot Fox, not only because of the beautiful coloring and how it aged from a nice orange to this soft peach, but really for its longevity. You can see I have it here, and I also have it right at the entrance to the main flower walk, and it appears to be very weather resistant thus far, and it does appear to be the longest lasting tulip, aside from Blushing Lady, which is also lasting well. Over here in the driveway garden, we've shifted from daffodils to alliums. The gladiator alliums are in bloom, and the bees are just loving these. I'm so happy with the quality of these bulbs. These are from Longfield Gardens, and I'm getting 3 flowering stems per bulb. I think Dr. Seuss must have had alliums in his garden, because don't these just look like drawings from his books? And if I remember correctly, we should have 3 different allium shows. We'll have the Gladiator, then we'll have Pinball Wizard, Christophii, Schubertii. We'll have Mount Everest over in the hydrangea room. And then I think I might have one more sprinkled somewhere else. But you can see a lot more of those wonderful allium heads in here yet to bloom. And then the alliums will be followed by a succession of lilies. So I'm really trying to establish this as a bulb garden that's quite natural in nature, at least as natural as possible. I remember reading that Gladiator was an early allium, but I had no idea that it was this early. It's blooming right along with Purple Sensation, and you can see some more of those bearded iris in here. We also have a new bearded iris in here called Ozark, which is a deep purple, along with October Splendor, which I can kind of see is just starting to open up. Will probably be open by the end of today. So now let's take a walk through the raised bed gardens. And also we can take a look at the hydrangea annex. I've been working on that the last few days, moving some plants over there and kind of getting my mind straight in terms of what I want out of that garden. So this garden is in its infancy. I basically just started working on it about a week ago. We prepared the area last fall by laying down cardboard and some mulch on top. Or maybe we didn't even lay mulch, maybe we just used some compost. But what I've done is move some hydrangeas over into this area. I also wanted a little bit of lime to tie in Grace's garden, which is on my left. So I brought over some Sun King Aurelia, all plants that I had in the garden already. Also, I had some columbine getting buried over in my grandma's garden, so I popped that in here. The one plant I did purchase for this area is this beautiful Jacob's Ladder, and the bees are loving that as well. I have some Jacob's Ladder over in the hydrangea room, and my goal for this area is to really just repeat the plantings of the hydrangea room and Grace's garden to kind of make all the areas work together as harmoniously as possible. But you can see that garden is really just in the beginning stages. The next thing I want to do is go ahead and bring over the boxwood plantings and terracotta that I have over in the hydrangea room, and then work out from there. I need to bring in some hellebores, some phlox, some foxglove, and then in the fall come in with some alliums, just so everything kind of goes together. Now we can take a walk through the raised bed gardens, and how do you guys think it's shaping up based on where we started at the beginning of the year? I'm so happy not only with the addition of the deck, but also with the removal of that large plastic pot, the addition of these wonderful trellises from Plow and Hearth. And I think it's really saying something. You know, they did send me 6 for free, just being completely honest. And then I immediately turned around and purchased 2 more because I was just so happy with the quality. And I really wanted to get this look of kind of a big room with the big obelisks and then a smaller room in the center. I also purchased this solar fountain on Amazon, and it's working really well. It has these little feet on the sides so that it stays in the center of the bird bath and it doesn't splash all around. So we can just look through all the raised beds together. I've planted out some of my Saving Grace Dahlia seedlings. So this is from Save Seed, from a tuber that I grew from seed last year. We have sweet peas and cup and saucer vine growing up that trellis. The box here has 2 different kinds of snapdragons in it. I was hoping those would be ready for Mother's Day, but to be honest with how the weather's been, I'm really doubtful that we'll have sellable blooms on the snapdragons. This next bed has gladiolus in the front. That's the bare soil you see. Sweet peas and a mixture of bachelor's buttons and love in a mist. The next planting has our lilies and saponaria. I'm really happy with how that's looking so far. I think we better come in here and thin the saponaria out, but they seem to be working well together. Some bupleurum behind that. I just stuck some of my amaryllis in this raised bed as an experiment. Oh, what is Rocky doing in the background? Oh my word. And that bed's gonna be for vegetables. Here we have breadseed poppies, along with more sweet peas and cup and saucer vine. Oh, here's a look at my grandma's chair. I haven't got back here with mulch yet, but we have lots more alliums here and a planting of a lot of blue annuals from seed. So we do have some of the bachelor's buttons in bloom. And what I want to do this year is a bigger dried flower Christmas tree. So I'm going to be harvesting some flowers that I haven't tried drying in the past. And I definitely want to give bachelor's buttons a try. I've seen people dry them and they seem like they dry really well and maintain their color nicely. This is kind of that cool flowers quilt work bed that happened by accident when all my seed got washed all around. Just a complete mistake on my part. But we have Orlea grandiflora, we have bupleurum in here, and bachelor's buttons. And these were all planted so closely together. I mean, the seed just got washed all around, and probably some seed blew in from previous years, but so far so good. The bed behind that I'm using as a holding bed where I'm just planting things that don't have their permanent location as of yet and then transferring them into another location. So there's basically half a bed of ranunculus here. The other half went into the hydrangea annex. And then I put my statice and another planting of lilies in there. Growing up this trellis is hyacinth bean vine. Then directly in front of us looks kind of messy, but to me it looks okay. But back there is where we have the dried flower garden with straw flowers right in front of my compost pile. And also Saving Grace Dahlia seedlings are going to grow up those stakes. This bed has our red and orange ranunculus that I planted out much earlier than normal in the hopes of having ranunculus for Mother's Day. But once again, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. It looks like I'll probably get them in late May, as I normally would. Here's a look at how our cool flowers experiment with Sweet William is doing. On the left-hand side, we have fall planted Sweet William, On the right-hand side, we have the exact same Sweet William planted in the same exact manner, started inside and then planted out. This planting happened in very early spring, and I think you can really see that stark contrast. These would be ready for harvest for Mother's Day, so the question is, will I have anything to pair them with? But look at that huge difference between fall planted Sweet William. They were uncovered all winter. The lowest temperature we experienced was 4 degrees Fahrenheit, totally uncovered. And then the very early spring planted Sweet William. I think there's a clear winner here. And so here's just a closer look at where I'm going with this new garden. The fencing is there just to teach Grace not to walk in this area. And this is also where I relocated the tricolor beech to, and it's just starting to leaf out. Here's a quick look and update on my front garden and what's in store for this area. For now, I have sunflower sunflowers planted in here. This is my second sunflower succession. And I also planted a whole bunch of lily of the valley in this area. But my new plan for this area is to really make it a lot nicer, but to also keep it low to no maintenance. So in the fall, when everything kind of goes on sale and on clearance, I'll be picking up lots of evergreen shrubs, and we'll fill in this garden with all of those flowering evergreens so that the soil is really completely covered with something. And hopefully then we're able to kind of choke out all of the issues that I'm having here with the invasive honeysuckle and also mimosa trees and just all kinds of things. I have thistle up here. All the weeds or kind of junk trees that you wouldn't want popping up in a garden have been popping up here since we moved in. And so hopefully we can really take back this garden. And like I said, that will happen in the fall once I can get a lot of plants on sale. So friends, I think that's pretty much how we're looking here. Still lots more work to do. We really need to get to work on bringing in those jewel tones into the main flower walk. And hopefully before we know it, we'll be harvesting and selling flowers yet again. I can't wait to get the stand all set up. It seems like so much time has passed since I've sold flowers. And for the first time in a long time, I haven't sold any tulips. I was really kind of banking on having those early ranunculus ready for Mother's Day. So I didn't hold any tulips in the fridge or anything. So we will just see what happens with this new and interesting weather that we are probably all experiencing. But for now, friends, I want to wish you a wonderful day out there in your gardens. I appreciate each and every one of you with my whole heart. And I'll see you back here in my garden sometime soon. Bye, friends. Well, good morning, friends. I hope you're all having an absolutely wonderful May day. It's currently late May here in southern Pennsylvania. The sun is just rising. And last night I discovered some old photographs of the garden from 7 years ago. Some from before I even started any work on the garden, and some from year 1 and 2. And so I thought, let's take a look around at the gardens. I'll try to stand in the location where these pictures are located so we can really kind of get a sense of before and after. And so I'm starting back here behind the raised beds and in front of the no-dig cut flower garden and my dahlia breeding experiment, my first year of breeding dahlias. And here's a photograph of what this area looked like the first year that we owned the property. We really didn't do much work on the property that first year because we were busy fixing the house. But you'll be able to see in that photograph some persimmon trees back here. Also, you might notice an oak and an evergreen tree. So all those trees needed to come down because I'll never forget when my husband leaned on one of the persimmon trees and it just fell over. My husband included. We didn't have Grace at that point. We did have the cats. But that's kind of an idea of what the property looked like from back here. So now let's take a look around the raised bed gardens. What I want to do moving forward is add those horn beams to the back corner to create a living arch, but I just love the trellises so much. I think that really just brings that nice room feel to this area. And so let's walk through and see what's blooming. We just cut all the Sweet William for the stand. The stand is set up again this morning. And we're about to get started on harvesting the ranunculus. Aviv Piketty Cafe is blooming now. And it's this wonderful blend of bronze and orange colors. A few accidental yellows are mixed in there, but that's okay. And then we also have the Aviv Piketty Pink White. And we'll be selling those ones at the flower stand. I'm not sure if I'm going to sell Aviv Cafe. I think I must have ordered those just for myself to arrange with, because I don't really have anything back here to pair them with. But this Aviv Piketty Pink White is just so beautiful, isn't it? I'll be cutting these right after this video. This Cool Flowers quilt work bed has been such a delightful surprise, and the colors are just perfect for Memorial Day weekend. But let's go ahead and head over to the hydrangea room next. I think I have a picture of that area about 2 years into working on the gardens. So we can just walk through the raised bed area to get there. I don't think I'll edit this video too much this morning, just so we can really get a full sense of the space. The Coosa dogwoods have grown so much in 7 years. And hopefully by taking out a lot of those dead and diseased trees, and just by the pure fact that the trees were so overcrowded, that will really help them in the future. So I'll just stop here for 1 second. I know I have a photograph of what this exact area looked like when we purchased the house. The gentleman who had owned the house previous to us had been putting straw bales around the house. I'm not sure if that was for heat or what. So there's a bunch of trash cans, trash bags, and straw that you're seeing in that photograph. But I would say this is basically where that photo was taken from. And if we just go over here to the hydrangea room, I have a photograph, and I'm going to just put a heart or a smiley face over my daughter's face to maintain her privacy. But I have a photograph of when I first planted Invincible Spirit 2 hydrangea right here where the train's running. And so we can really see how much that has grown in about 6 or 7 years. Even though I don't love the color of Mount Everest alliums over in this garden, I do think I did a decent job of disguising the dying foliage. And that's one other thing I want to address in this video, areas where I did disguise the allium foliage and areas where I need to work on that and steps I'm taking to remedy that for future years. But the foliage here on Mount Everest allium is disguised by Orlea grandiflora, or commonly known as whitefinch Orlea is the cultivar there that I'm using. And this sensational honeysuckle, I know I mentioned this in a video just a few days ago, but it is absolutely amazing. So it's fun to see this area develop, and definitely putting in this area, I think, added so much to the garden. I'm really, really thankful to Plow and Hearth for being willing to send me these hummingbird arches. It was one of your ideas that I contact them I'm kind of shy when it comes to contacting companies. I don't know, it makes me kind of uncomfortable. But one of you said, you know, why don't I just go ahead and write them? And they were very willing to send these out. And I'm super thankful because it's really just transformed the whole garden. I mean, this area did not exist when we were here. It was just present in my imagination. Of course, the apple tree was here, but that was it. That was the only tree that was here when we moved in. I'm still really undecided on the Mount Everest alliums. I think it depends on how the light hits them. This is the view that you would have if you were to drive by our property right now. This is the street view. The orchard's behind me. You know, I'm far back from the honeysuckle right now, and I can still smell it. It's just wonderful. So let's walk through Hummingbird Way. Even though there's not a lot in bloom right now over in this garden, I do think it helps that you're able to see the catmint over in the main flower walk. I want to bring in even more catmint to certain areas, but all in good time, right? And that's what I really want to accomplish in today's video, is just that thought and reminder to myself, honestly, all in good time. Don't rush it. Don't feel bad if it takes time to accomplish the picture that's in your mind. It will come in time. Right, Grace? I have to remind myself of that. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you feel like you're working, and you're not really accomplishing that picture that you have in your mind. But sometimes it helps to look back and remember where you started. So I really like this new stone rug, and I thought I would just share the reason why I don't have all the cracks filled with lambsyear is because I really prefer to use only my grandma's lambsyear here, and I need to wait until it cools down to divide it some more. I'm not sure if I said it already, but we're going to be getting into the 90s this week. Martagon lilies still yet to bloom, but I'm so excited to see that. First year being able to see the Martagon lilies. So for our next before picture, I do believe I have some photographs of what this area looked like from right over here when I first put in the steeplechase arborvitaes and the limelight and a few perennials. I think I have a picture of that maybe from our second year here, so I'll show that now. And as we walk through the main flower walk backwards, we have a lot of alliums in bloom. And I'm gonna switch directions so I can show you another photograph. So I'm pretty sure the photograph you're seeing is from 2017 when I was just starting on the borders and we had stuck some random vegetable boxes right in the middle of the yard. But this is kind of a similar view from where that photograph is taken. And you can see I've got some grass issues going on right now. I just seeded some more grass again. And I think I have some pictures of this area of the garden from before I put the trellising up and from when the Japanese cedar was first installed. So I can show you that now. So in a lot of ways, I feel like I have taken a step backward in the main flower walk this year because I've moved so many shrubs around in order to change the color palette and increase the repetition. And I think it's going to be another year until we really are able to see the picture that I have in my mind, because a lot of the shrubs have been set back, right, Grace? Especially the incredible hydrangeas in terms of size. So it will take a few years until we're really able to see my new vision come to life. Grace is so excited. What is it, Grace? Want to go get your bone? And I'll just show this Japanese cedar one more time because I know I do have some more pictures. Oh, Grace got her bone. I know I have some pictures of when I first installed that. And I'm pretty sure that was 2018. So this grew really, really quickly. Much quicker than the steeplechase arborvitaes, which are now at their mature height and width. So before we head over to the driveway garden, you can see why I need to reseed the grass in this area. Perfectly all right. Rather have Grace happy than grass. But before we head over to the driveway garden, where I feel like I did a decent job of disguising the allium foliage, I want to walk through this area slowly once to show you that I did not do a good job of disguising the dying allium foliage here. And I'm super, super thankful to Jung Seed Company. They sent me out a ton of new perennials for the garden, wonderful purples, peaches, and also pinky peaches. And I've been busy planting all of those in the main flower walk, not only to give us a nice succession of blooms, but to help remedy this problem that just naturally occurs with alliums, that their foliage is dying at the same time that they bloom. That's totally normal. So the first thing that I put in from Jung Seed, and thank you so much again, they were just so generous to send me all these plants. This is the Forever Purple Heuchera, because I want to bring in not only more purple blooms, but more purple foliage. And so I think I have about 7 or 8 plants here. And then I repeated that planting further down. It's kind of interesting because this main flower walk, you have herbaceous borders on both sides of you, but the side on the left is basically shade until about 4 o'clock. The side on the right is full sun from about 6:30 on. And you can see what that does too to the alliums. For instance, Pinball Wizard over here has almost completely lost its color, whereas Pinball Wizard on the other side is still a nice vibrant purple. I also placed these alliums probably too close to the front of the border. When I planted them, we didn't have this new extension of grass, so I think I was probably thinking to myself that I would plant some annuals here. But the longer that I garden in the main flower walk, I'd rather have a lot more perennials that are good for cutting and a lot less annuals, just so that there's a little less maintenance in this area. And so I put in a new agastache right around the foliage here. It's a beautiful peach agastache, and I'll put a picture of it in bloom on the screen. So by next year, those should all grow together, come up at the same time, and hopefully disguise that allium foliage. Around these alliums, I put in cobalt blue delphinium. This is supposed to be a heat and humidity tolerant delphinium. So we'll put that to the test. So hopefully that will take care of that allium foliage. Here where I have ambassador mixed in with bupleurum and lilies and rue and sage, you're not seeing the dying foliage at all. So I was happy with that planting. But once again, when we hit these Pinball Wizards right in front of my flower lady, we're seeing the foliage again. So I came in here with some new foxgloves. We have Dalmatian peach foxglove and also Arctic rose foxglove. These are supposed to be perennial foxgloves that bloom the first year. So we'll put that to the test as well. So unfortunately, I really don't have a good picture of what the driveway garden looked like when we first moved in. I wish I could go back in time and remind myself to take the bad pictures, to take the before pictures. I just don't really have one that's true to what we saw when we moved in, But just imagine not being able to see anything but dead trees in this area. Basically, a old dead orchard would be the best way to describe it. So the photograph I do have of this area was when I believe we had already taken out the willows. We had a line of willows also that were way too close to our house. Very nervous about how close they were to some water lines. And once those came out, I started planting rows of cut sunflowers. And then I quickly abandoned that and started to develop this area as what I hope to be a park-like feel. So we have over here Orlea grandiflora, pinball wizard, we have some foxy foxglove, lots of lilies, and I want this to kind of be a bulb succession over in this garden. I want it to be as full as possible. I want it to have tons of flowers, but very, very, very low maintenance. And I think we're getting there, maybe a few more years. But the mistake I believe I made was that I did go ahead and cut the gladiator alliums once they turned green. And I got rid of all that nice height that was happening over here. And I do kind of regret that. But let me take us around this way because I want to show you a few beautiful moments that are happening in this garden. And I also want to show you Christophii allium, which I've never grown before and I'm just loving it. Here's Schubertii. You might remember that from previous years. It looks like this ginormous firework in the garden. But I love this beautiful moment here. And what I need to do is just increase this beautiful moment with more of the same. We've got the foxy foxglove, the Persian berry bearded iris, pinball wizard allium, white finch Orlea. We have some weigelas over here. But I think this is just so beautiful. But let me swing us around here slowly so that you can see Christophii. Let me know if you've grown Christophii. I think it's so beautiful. I have lots of baby plants over here suffering because we desperately need rain. That is Floret celosia there. But let's get a close-up on this Christophii, not fully open yet, but so amazing. So I thought that Schubertii couldn't be beat, but I think I actually like Christophii better. I like how it has these amazing stars at the tips. I'll give you a close-up on Schubertii. They really look quite different. And Christophii is blooming later than Schubertii for me here in 6B. You can see they're just really starting to open, but I love them so much. And for comparison, here's Schubertii. Well friends, I hope it was fun to see some old pictures of how the garden looked when we first moved in. And I hope it's an encouragement to anyone that might need to hear it, that, you know, whenever you get discouraged, whenever you're making a garden and you feel like you're not making enough progress, you're not making the kind of progress that you want, perhaps look back and remember where you started. I know that really helps me. It helps motivate me to look back at some of these pictures when I get discouraged, when I feel like I'm not making the kind of progress I want to make. There's still all these holes everywhere, still so much more that I want to accomplish. To just remember to take a deep breath, enjoy the journey, and remember that it is about the journey. And it's about gardening as a verb rather than a noun. It's not about necessarily, for me at least, it's not so much about creating these picture-perfect gardens. It's just about gardening and relishing all of the benefits that gardening brings to my life. Well friends, I want to wish you a wonderful day out there in your gardens, and I just have to say once again, this sensational honeysuckle smells amazing. Definitely get your hands on one if you can. But I wish you a wonderful day out there in your gardens, and I hope we can all enjoy the journey of gardening together. Bye friends! And look at this friends. This is literally 3 seconds after I turned my camera off. I think my grandma came for a visit today. Well, good morning, friends, and welcome to the June garden tour. So I'm standing here near the gate, and so you would enter through that gate. On your left side is Grace's garden. On the right side is the hydrangea room. And the first part of the hydrangea room is in full shade because it's covered by the canopy of this beautiful Macintosh tree. The first hydrangea that we see is Invincible Mini Mauvet. In the shade, it is more of a soft pink color, and it definitely is not blooming as much as the one in full sun. Right next to that one, the one that is currently white but which will quickly turn green, is Invincible Limetta. That is just such a great hydrangea. Really strong stems, no flopping, and such a great height. Another Invincible Mini Mauvet over on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. And I've tried to use the same hydrangeas on both sides of the hydrangea room, but to not repeat exactly because I'm going for more of a natural feel over here. So you see Haas Halo there is the beautiful white lace cap smooth hydrangea. We have Incredible, and then we have Invincible Ruby. Invincible Ruby is also in between each Hummingbird arch. And as we start to walk forward, we enter this area which is now basically in full sun, and look at the difference in the performance of these hydrangeas. So here's my oldest smooth hydrangea. This is Haas Halo that I planted very early on. Just such a great hydrangea. Now here's Invincible Mini Mauvet in full sun. And you can really see the difference in the coloring. A lot more blooms, and those are the same exact age, so it's much bigger also. The soft, almost dusty pink hydrangea you see there by Grace is another one of my favorites, Invincible Spirit 2. Down below, right near these Foxy Foxglove, is Invincible Wee White. And in the distance is one that we added together last year, which is Invincible Lace. I really love that. And in the distance there, you see one called Annabelle. And I'll talk more about my thoughts on Annabelle once we get a little bit closer. So let me just back us up slowly here. I also have some boxwood and terracotta pots. The Foxy Foxglove is just getting started. I think I only have 3 blooming at the moment. They were a little overcrowded with some of the magic lime green feverfew, which you see at the end of the garden there. So now that I've cut all that for arrangements, I think they'll start blooming. We have some astilbe in this garden. I'm sorry, I can't really remember the cultivar. I really like to grow astilbe from bare root. It really takes well to being planted from bare root. Here's a close-up on Haas Halo. Isn't that beautiful? So delicate, just ever so delightful. I can give you a close-up on all of these hydrangeas too if you like. That way, if you're shopping for one and you're wondering what they might look like after a couple years, you can see them up close and personal. And so this one is Incredible. So much better than Annabelle there in the distance. I would never buy Annabelle again. I have about 10 stakes in that hydrangea, and you can see it's still falling all over the place. I do have some calla lilies in here. This calla lily is Peach Pizzazz. Honestly, I'm not sure why I put peach flowers in this garden, but it's great to have some calla lilies around for cutting. And I love the bold texture that the foliage brings to the garden. It lends a nice tropical feel to the area. We also do have some snapdragons and some sweet william for cutting in this garden. And there's the view of the new stone rug. So now let's go ahead and walk through Hummingbird Way. The honeysuckle that I have planted on either side of these arches are from Plow and Hearth. They come with gates, but I chose to use them as arbors and create this tunnel. Last year I grew cup and saucer vine up them, and that was really fun, but this year I just decided to stick with the honeysuckle. You can see the magic lime green feverfew starting to go over now, but I really love having the foxy foxglove and the sweet william over in this garden. In case you're new here, I love growing things from seed, and almost all the flowers that you see in my garden, whether they be grown from seed, bulb, corm, tuber, root, what have you, I sell most of them at our farm stand. So my garden tours are a little bit different than some other garden tours you might see on YouTube, because you are seeing what remains in my garden after I've cut all the cut flowers that are located within my landscape. Like you see one straw flower there in the distance, because I've been cutting on a lot of them. So this stone rug I put in this year, and this was really just a place to honor my grandmother. My grandma's name was Martha Miller, and so, oh no, you can't see it anymore. Hold on, let me clear the way. I think it's hard to see in there at the moment, but her stone that was located at the front of her garden that says the Millers and has a hummingbird on it was the inspiration for this area. So I just started with that stone and gathered more stone and created this rug. I specifically chose this particular lamb's ear because this lamb's ear belonged to her. It was from her garden. And this little angel here was also hers. We have some Verbena bonariensis, and you know what? The goldfinches, and I have some footage of this for you, the goldfinches are just loving the Verbena bonariensis this year, and they're also loving the bachelor's buttons. So the bachelor's buttons need cut back, but I don't have the heart to do it because there's all these birds enjoying it. So we have a Gatsby Gal oak leaf there on the left-hand side of your screen. The blooms on Annabelle versus Incredible are bigger, but the stems, and maybe too it's where I live in a really, really rainy, humid climate. In fact, it's going to be raining all day tomorrow. But in that kind of a climate, Annabelle just does not hold up well. In front of that, I did have some Clarkia planted. I pulled that out. It was all done. I also had some Buplurum planted, but we cut that the other day and sold it at the flower stand. And so now all that remains is this beautiful hedge of catmint, which probably needs sheared back at the moment, but I can't bring myself to do it once again because it's just covered with bees. Now pretty soon we'll shift gears and travel down the main flower walk through the other gate. But for now, let me show you this other view of the hydrangea room before we go over there. So here's a look at the hydrangea room from the other direction. Really, really happy with Invincible Lace hydrangea. I'm trying to think about where I can add some more of these into the garden. Such a great partner to Haas Halo, and I just love having all the different hydrangeas in one place. I'm really a hydrangea enthusiast. So let's go ahead and travel through this other gate now. This is the area that I call the main flower walk, and I've been doing a lot of moving in this area. Right here we have Eastern Moon Lily, a gorgeous trumpet lily with a very light fragrance. The blooms on Eastern Moon are not long lasting, but there's lots of blooms on each stem, so you do get a decent show. But over the last, I think I've had them 2 years, maybe 3, I remember the same thing happening. It seemed like each flower itself maybe lasted, I don't know, maybe just 2 days. So, sorry, I got a little bit of debris lying around. Hope you don't mind too much. Kind of laid back in terms of that. Got a beautiful 9 bark there on this side of the main flower walk. This year I'm keeping it purples, acid greens, peaches, oranges, that orange won't show up until a little bit later on in the season. And also, I think I would like to add in some magentas, because when we had those magentas in late May, I really liked that. Another 9 bark on that side. We're going to enter in now, and we'll be greeted with 2 boxwoods on either side of us. I hope you won't mind my grass. Grass is always under construction around here. And I have the hedge of Bergarten sage there, under the eastern moon lilies. Let me go ahead and enter and close the gate behind us, so we can go ahead and walk down the main flower walk together now. But right now I want to overlay some video of the view that I see from our kitchen window, because that is the view I used to design this space. And there's a lot of shrubs back there that are kind of hard to show, because basically I have this circular landing pad that sometimes is planted with grass. I just planted some more clover. I think I give up on grass at this point. Over here, are these called Hydrangea? Am I saying that properly? Angel's trumpet. They'll get really big, and those are the peach ones. Please let me know if you have any pest issues on those and how you handle that organically if that does tend to happen for you. So the main shrub that we have repeated in this area is the limelight hydrangea. We have another hedge of catmint. We have some creeping junipers. Followed by that, we have some geums. But, you know, I'm undecided on the peach. Look at Grace. I often see, how do you keep Grace out of your garden? Well, you let me know how to keep her out, and maybe I can learn something from you guys about that. She's the queen of the garden around here. But these are Dalmatian peach foxgloves. I received those forever purple heucheras from Junk Seed this year, and I was really happy with the condition they arrived in. I think I might do more plant ordering online, especially now that I want to do a lot more repeating of the same plant over and over again. Sometimes it's just really hard to get your hands on a lot of the same exact plant. Is it like that where you live? Sprinter boxwood here in the front, and that's repeated behind me. Gold splash euonymus. We have lots of gladiolus yet to bloom. I'm trialing a lot of gladiolus this year, so we won't be cutting them. We will be photographing them and writing about them. That'll be really fun and exciting to be able to see all these new and interesting colors. I like the color palette that's going on here, but I think the leaf structure is too similar, with a baptisia right in front of this Winecraft Gold smoke bush. And then once again, that leaf structure is kind of similar to the serviceberry. So maybe I need to rethink the area. I like the colors, but I think I could do better in terms of texture. So moving right along, this area is really yet to fill in. There's a lot of my cut flowers that are going to come to maturity in August. So we have the Carmen Gomfrina. I believe we sowed that together. I have some lavender sprinkled throughout, more Verbena bonariensis, geums. I remembered to do the Chelsea chop on my Joe Pieweed this year, and I also divided it so it's much, much shorter this year. I'm really happy with that. I did move about half of the Sweet William into the border recently. I really like the way it looks, and a lot of you were telling me that it perennializes well where you live, so I thought I'd give that a try. And this is the purple-white bicolor Sweet William. I got that seed from Johnny's. Some peach agastache there. This is another incredible hydrangea, and I moved that one from the front garden to the back. So I kind of set it back in terms of size. It'll be much, much bigger in the years to come. I think Grace wants us to continue on and see some beautiful Veronica here. Let me know if you recognize this particular Veronica. I think I picked it up from the side of the road one year and it wasn't labeled, so I'm not sure exactly what variety it is. But here I have some lavender, and I've interplanted the Dalmatian peach foxglove with lady's mantle. We will soon have some, what is that? Is it David's phlox? I thought I moved the David's phlox over to the hydrangea room. I might have missed a piece. We'll soon have David's phlox blooming over here, along with Corbara and Montezuma lilies. There's also 5 elephant ears in this garden and about 20 dahlias. So if you look closely, you can probably see some of those starting, but they're pretty small right now. So things really change around here a lot weekly. I could probably do a weekly garden tour and it would be totally different. In fact, as we walk toward the raised beds, I'll now overlay some footage of some things that we cut from the raised bed garden this year. I would say that over the course of the whole growing season, I flip all of these raised beds at least 4 times. Some more, some less, depending on what's in the bed. But for example, and I'll overlay some footage for you here, I just flipped this front bed, which was poppy pods, cut and sold all of those, and now I have another wave of straw flower in that bed. Let's take a closer look at how my dahlia breeding is going. So if you're new to this project that I'm working on, last year I grew some dahlias from seed, which I really enjoy doing. One of them really struck me as being especially beautiful, so I called it Saving Grace. There it is. It's this beautiful, beautiful pink dahlia with a sunny yellow center, loved by the bees and the butterflies, a great structure to the plant. I love the color of the foliage, nice and dark. So this Saving Grace I did not pinch, and it started blooming, you know what, I can't honestly remember. Was it blooming in late May? Let me know if you remember when I said that. This other one on the left-hand side of your screen hasn't bloomed yet. I did pinch that one just for comparison. So the mother is in both corners. Then I saved seed from that plant, and these are all of the babies. One is blooming in the back by the straw flower, so we can see her first baby. Along all of these trellises, I'm growing sweet peas. And I do have snail vine on the back trellis, which is not doing great, but it is still alive. So here's a close-up. Pretty much all the same sweet pea. This year in the back I grew Potomac lavender. Really, really happy with this color. No issues with thrips on this color. Apple blossom I love. Starting to have some thrips on that color, so I might rethink that color altogether. And the Costa or Costa apricot, I will cease growing a big thrip problem on that color. This bed was ranunculus. I cut those ranunculus back and I have seeded them with breadseed poppies as an experiment. This bed has some sweet william, tomatoes, more sweet peas. This bed was our quilt work of cool flowers, and now I'm transitioning it to sunflower production. These 2 central beds I've just started to flip. You might recall that we had Orlea and Buplurum in the one on the left. I just very recently pulled those and replanted them with zinnias. The bachelor's buttons don't look great, but I'm keeping them in for one final cut for the 4th of July. And as soon as that happens, we will go ahead, take these out and replace them with another wave of sunflowers. But here's the look from the back deck. So around my compost pile, I have the apricot straw flower planted. Some of them are a softer peach, and some of them are a more vibrant orange, but I really like all of them, and I just feel so good about tucking these into arrangements and selling them, knowing that they will just last forever for the customer if they like. Back here, this is kind of just a new area that I'm just starting to cultivate, but we do have Saving Grace's first baby back here, getting eaten a little bit. Well, getting eaten a lot, but there it is. Looks similar to Saving Grace, but a different color. So it'll be really excited to see all these bloom. Don't you just love those straw flowers though? I think it's been a long time since we took a look at the Hydrangea annex, and I have done absolutely no work over here at all. I accidentally mulched this area, forgetting that when the Coosa dogwood sheds its bracts, it kind of makes a mess. So I almost need to maybe move that around and mix it in with the mulch. But I do have some awesome Peruvian daffodils in this area. This is where I stuck almost all of my Peruvian daffodil bulbs this year. I think I stored 6 bulbs last year. I wish these flowers lasted longer, but they sure do look cool. And I don't want to ruin the surprise, but I think I can show you kind of a brief look at how Grace's garden looks. And I will show you the new and improved orchard in the next video. But for now, let's go ahead and go through the gate on the right and take a look at the driveway garden and the front garden where I have Sunflower Steve's sunflowers in bloom. This is what I refer to very uncreatively as the driveway garden. Perhaps we should think of a different name. Over here, I'm going for a park-like feel that is full of cut flowers. So especially in this landscape garden, I have cut pretty much every single flower that is available and ready for cutting. I hope you can see that there is an enormous amount of lilies in this area, and we have cut all the ones that are ready. This garden has a really informal park-like feel, which is what I'm after, but I wanted to bring in a little bit of structure and definitely more evergreen interest. So just recently I planted this beautiful yew hedge, and it's in a semicircle, and it just goes all around the Invincible Spirit 2 hedge. There's also a very informal meandering path that travels through this garden. I think we added in that path, I think that was last year, and that was really a great addition. I didn't have any kind of pathway before, and this area was too large in terms of having lots of cut flowers and no path to walk on and set down my harvest bucket. So I think the addition of this path made a big difference. And this is just a path that you can roll up and take with you. We do have some straw flower planted on both sides of the Invincible Spirit 2 hedge. And in front we have dwarf butterfly bushes. And lily season will wrap up with the rose lilies and the stargazer lilies, which are all located in the front of this garden. So I will try to do a lily tour, or I will try to go ahead and make sure and cut the lilies with you so that you can see at least 1 or 2 of each variety in bloom. But that's how the driveway garden is shaping up so far. I thought it would be nice to grow Steve's sunflowers in the front garden this year, kind of to attract customers and really show them his beautiful blooms. So this is his Van Gogh Fantasy Mix. Some are singles. Some have those amazing fluffy middles, but they're all really interesting colors. And the colors up here are quite hot. So I have yellows, oranges, rusts. The lily that I have throughout here, I believe I made a video of it last year, is Lavon. So hopefully those colors will look nice together. And I have some milkweed in here. Here's a look at a few more. This area is, I would say, about 4 hours of sun and then shade. So the sunflowers are on the shorter side because of that, but they're still doing well and a good size for cutting. I really like this one, and you can see I'm battling some mimosa tree seedlings there in the background. And I'm gonna update you on the moving, not moving situation in the following video where we have the big renovation. Also, we have some crinum in bloom. Well, friends, thanks so much for spending some time out here in the garden with me. Every time I walk around the June garden tour, it makes me want to buy more smooth pink hydrangeas. Does it make you feel that way? But following this video, I have the big renovation video to share with you that's happening right behind me. It's almost complete. And I have to tell you, I am seeing this garden with all new eyes and all new ideas after seeing this whole area come to life. I'm not even sure come to life is the right way to say it, but it feels like mine now. It feels like almost freeing to be rid of so many problems and to have the opportunity for a fresh start and to create something new. I'm almost excited for winter this year because I feel like I'll just be dreaming and scheming of all the new areas that I want to create. And I even have a formal white garden in mind for an area that I would have never thought to turn into a garden. But friends, for now, I better get back inside to Miss Grace. We haven't watched this week's Gardener's World yet, so I think it's time for a cup of decaf and some homemade brownies. I hope you all have a wonderful day out there in your gardens, and I'll see you back here for some garden design renovations, some flower stand setups, and I'm also taking us on a field trip to another state sometime really soon. So friends, have a wonderful day out there in your gardens, and just know how thankful I am for each and every one of you. Bye friends. Hi there friends, good morning. I hope you're having a really wonderful day. Well, I wasn't planning a video today, but after hearing Jenny talk about how she really feels like it's important to focus on the beauty of the garden and what's going right in the garden, I thought I would film a brief tour showing how everything's looking in mid-July and just focus on the positive. So let's start right here on the right side of the main flower walk, and I have so much to show you. I can overlay a little bit of footage of what all the gardens look like right now. There are so many lilies and gladiolas coming in and out of bloom every day. But let's start down low where we see the beautiful carmine gomphrena, and we sewed that together back in, I think it was late March. And I like the different texture here with this creeping juniper, the gomphrena, and I do have some lobelia just tucked in low to the ground. Soon we'll have an explosion of dahlias in here. But let me know if you recognize this gladiola, because we're going to see it a lot during our walk down the main flower walk. This was supposed to be Isabella, and I've grown Isabella twice now. I thought it was supposed to be a raspberry gladiolus, but 2 years ago it was purple, and this year it's purple again. So it makes me curious to know, what does the real Isabella look like? There are lots of bees, butterflies, and birds enjoying the Verbena bonariensis. The tallest Verbena that you see are the plants that we planted together, and the ones that are a little bit shorter are the cuttings that we took early on in the season. But the plants and the cuttings are all in bloom now, and the third cuttings that I took, I'm looking over my shoulder, they are actually also in bloom as well, so I'll be sure to show you those. We do have the Dalmatian Peach Foxglove still in bloom. I've been trying to keep up with the deadheading on those, as well as the purple white bicolor Sweet William. This is the Sweet series, and I got that seed from Johnny's. And some people were asking me about whether this keeps on blooming throughout the summer. For me here in Sixby, it does, as long as I keep cutting it or deadheading it, and it is due for some deadheading as we speak. Let's go ahead and travel down and see this moment. This is why I really wanted to film the tour today, or maybe we should just call it a garden walk rather than a tour. But we're starting to get those more vibrant, richer hues over in the main flower walk. So this lily is a red lily. It's kind of a cranberry red, I would say. It's called Montezuma. I think I've had it in the garden for about 3 years. It's about 4.5 feet tall now. It's an oriental lily, and it's so beautiful. On the opposite side, to counterbalance that, I have Corvara, but that lily is not in bloom yet. But I do like how this picture looks. And of course, depending on how the sun is shining, it looks quite different. The sun is harsh now, but I like seeing all the birds and the bees. So we're repeating that bicolor dianthus below. More verbena. So this is our verbena cuttings here. And then we have some beautiful phlox. The limelight hydrangeas are starting to put on their bloom stalks, and let me turn this around so you can see firelight. This is firelight hydrangea. The leaves on firelight are a little bit darker green than on limelight. It blooms much earlier. I think I said this is July 17th in southern Pennsylvania. Back behind that, I do have an incredible hydrangea, some titanic gladiolas, and also some tricolor gladiolas. And let me show you how these areas connect. So we're standing right next to firelight now at the corner of my addition. And if we look down a ways, and I'll show you what's going on with the grass, it's being completely reseeded at this point. Hopefully by the full July garden tour, we'll have some grass there yet again. But that's how these areas connect, and this is how I see the main flower walk from my kitchen window. I kind of see straight ahead, but usually there's grass there. This year, not so much. And here's the view looking back from our flower lady. Miscanthus cabaret is the large grass that you see there. And you can see the other limelight is probably at least 9 feet tall at this point. So this will be an interesting test to see if the high traffic grass will grow in this area where I'm having so many problems. But I do have some other lilies on this side of the main flower walk. This lily is called Salmon Star, a beautiful white lily with peach freckles, and it's about 3.5 feet tall this year. I thought I had removed most of those lilies from the border, but I guess I left that one. I'm repeating that carmine gomphrena below, and I have some creeping campanula in there. That is a purple perennial down below. Here we have our mystery gladiola. Let me know if you recognize it. I really would like to know what it is because I love it. I'll continue to plant it. And basically I did groupings of I think 7 all throughout the main flower walk, and even extended that down to the stone rug. This is the 4th limelight hydrangea in the main flower walk. It was the last limelight that I put in, and this one is probably only about 6 feet tall now. That one's probably 4 years old, whereas the other ones are somewhere between 6 and 8 years old. Diva Dahlia, I accidentally left the tuber in the ground last year. It came back. Creme de Cassis came back. I don't see many others. I did leave Cornell in the driveway garden, and I did lose all of them. But the rest of the dahlias I dug up. So here's some more of our mystery gladiolas. The Amsonia is that beautiful lime-colored feathery texture that's creeping into the bench now. We have my grandma's lamb's ear below. And it looks to me like, if you've been following me for a while, I think I had jewels of opar planted in this area 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. And it looks like it's popping up through the cracks. That's that lime-colored foliage that you see. Goodness, I think we used that on the dried flower Christmas tree maybe, I think 3 years ago. So I'm gonna let it go. I like it. And I didn't grow any this year, so it'll be nice to have a little sprinkling there. Common agastache in the background, and an oak leaf hydrangea back there is now turning from white to green. We still do have some Costa gladiolas in this area, just starting to come on now. And that's a really soft purple gladiola. Let's skip ahead a bit and head into the raised bed gardens where I have my Saving Grace Dahlia seedlings. About a fourth of them have bloomed now, and it's so exciting to see each one as they bloom. They almost all look very similar to Saving Grace, which is interesting. And then wait till you see this gladiola, my new favorite gladiola. I need to have thousands. I can't believe how gorgeous this is. So here's the original Saving Grace Dahlia, and it looks like we have a bee on one and a Japanese beetle on another. So for frame of reference, that is the mother plant. And then let's take a look at what all of her seed is producing. Oh, I need to get out here with some soapy water. I have to start doing that. So this one is really beautiful. They are all singles so far. They're all fairly tall, which is nice. I really do like tall dahlias. This one is very similar to Saving Grace, but I think even better because it has a beautiful magenta line around the perimeter of the petal, and then this beautiful streak of magenta here. So I really like that one. Here's the next one. Once again, similar but a little bit different. It's kind of fun. They all look like her children, but different in their own way. So we've got the pink, the magenta, but this one looks like there's been some scissors taken to the petals. So that's a really, really beautiful one. Next up, and I planted these really close together thinking that I might rip some out, but I'm just gonna keep them all unless I see any disease creep in. So we have a beautiful red one here. It kind of bleeds to a peach color at the edge. I can't tell if that's the same plant as this or if this is a totally different plant. This bug right there, I'm not sure if you just saw that, that was tarnished plant bug. That's a pretty bad bug. That will deform a flower head. So there's another one. This one is just starting to open, and it almost looks like a beautiful summer sunset. What might be a good name for that one? Summer sunset. Now in the back we have another original Saving Grace. So I saved one clump and I divided it into three. So we have two in the corner, one in the main flower walk. Let's head around to the other side. It looks like we have about 8 more to bloom over here, and behind us we probably have about 20 more to bloom. Now here is that amazing gladiola that I have to show you. This is called Ted's Favorite, and I'm always skeptical of gladiola pictures because they never seem correct, but this is similar to the picture, but it's even better. I mean, look at the coloring on that. It is a really, really vibrant hot pink that bleeds into this beautiful soft peach. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful. Let's take a look at the one on the other side. I really think this is my favorite gladiola that I've ever grown. It's so unexpected, and it's just so nice that it's better than the picture, you know? When you're growing anything from corm, tuber, bulb, or seed, you can never be 100% sure based on the picture, but I just love how Ted's Favorite turned out. So definitely I'll be ordering a lot more of those next year. So the raised beds are in serious transition right now. I have another wave of straw flower up there. You might remember we had poppies, replaced those with the king raspberry straw flower. And then I have vegetables. I decided to liquidate the rest of my zinnia seed. So those zinnias replace the cool flowers. I also need to go ahead and rip out all the remaining sweet peas. It's just too hot. Here is the sunflower succession that we planted together. Looking good. Over in the hydrangea room, we have some species lilies in bloom. This is Black Beauty. It is significantly taller than it was last year. It's actually leaning on the crepe myrtle right now, but it's really beautiful. It has downward facing blooms. So I thought species lilies could handle part shade, but it doesn't appear like they can. Last year they were fine over here, but they were only about 3.5, maybe 4 feet last year. Now that they're probably 6.5 feet tall, they are really struggling. You can see them falling over, and I really do not like to have lilies like that in the garden. I don't like to have any lilies back here low to the ground because of my pets. So I think I'm gonna have to remove those species of lilies and put them somewhere else, probably over in the driveway garden. So this is probably a different way than you've seen the hydrangea room before because it's being lit from right above. And I think it looks pretty different because of that. All of our pink hydrangeas are starting to age and turn either a very light and dusty pink, or even Invincible Spirit you can see has already turned green. So that is the one thing about Invincible Spirit too, it turns green quite quickly really, especially when you compare it to Mini Mauvet, which is right next to it, which is closer to us on the camera, and Ruby. Ruby stays pink the longest in my experience. Let me know what your experience is. But now we are going to have the Panicle hydrangeas take over. This large one right next to us is Strawberry Sunday, and the one there in front of the Hummingbird sign I think is Tiny Quickfire. So we've got a Panicle hydrangea with a nice open lacy bloom, and we have some lilies over here that I really want to show you, some rose lilies. We planted these lilies together. This rose lily is called Ramona. This is my first year growing Ramona, and I love it. I want to grow a lot more. And since now we've taken a look at one rose lily, let's go over to the driveway garden and take a look at a lot of rose lilies. So hopefully it won't be too loud over here in the driveway garden. It is midday, but over here I have a mix of stargazer lilies, Casablanca lilies, rose lily Editha. I have a new rose lily over here that hasn't bloomed yet, but I thought that this comparison was interesting. So these white Casablanca lilies that you see in the camera, they have been with me for I think about 5 years, and they're blooming now. Do you see these lilies that aren't in bloom yet? So I meant to flank the walkway with Casablanca. They are not blooming yet. So a newly planted lily ball planted in the spring will bloom a little bit less the first year than it will in subsequent years. So this year the picture looks a little bit strange because we have Casablanca on the left and Casablanca is not on the right as of yet. But in the years to come, imagine that we do have that Casablanca there and it looks the way that I intended it to look, nice and balanced. So we have my favorite rose lily up here, although after I see how beautiful Ramona is, I might need to change my mind. So this is Editha. It is a double oriental lily. Double oriental lilies and double Asiatic lilies do not have pollen, so they make really great cut flowers. Both the double Asiatic and the double oriental face upward, so once again really easy in terms of putting these into a spiraling bouquet. It can be challenging, I think, to put anything outward facing is somewhat challenging, but downward facing lilies are really challenging. I do have some tricks though that I can show you about working with outward facing lilies. So there we have Editha. Let me know what you think. Do you like Editha better or do you like Ramona better? I gotta take you over to my parents who have Tatiana growing in pots and it looks amazing, so amazing. So here's my stand of older Casablanca lilies. Coming down from Casablanca we have Stargazer. One of my favorite books is Flower Confidential, and it talks a lot about the cultivation and discovery, the breeding really, I guess I should say, behind Stargazer lilies. I would really recommend that book, Flower Confidential, if you are growing cut flowers and you're really passionate about local cut flowers. That will make you even more passionate about growing and purchasing only local flowers. So I'll have to look up my notes what that gladiola is. I'm thinking Katharina. This gladiola is a mystery, so let me know if you recognize it. It's a hot pink with white streaks running into the center. I hope you don't mind the traffic too much, but you know, as a lot of my channel is about selling cut flowers, this will give you a good and accurate sense of how much traffic is passing by my stand every day. And my stand is right there in the corner. So we have a lot more apricot straw flowers in here. And friends, when I do the full July garden tour, I'll make sure I do it on a Sunday morning, so it's nice and quiet for us. But there's a look at how our brief moment of formality looks with the bird bath, the beautiful butterfly bushes, and Invincible Spirit 2 behind the bird bath. Over here, the crocosmia is starting to go out of bloom, but I prefer it out of bloom because it leaves behind these wonderful textural seed pods that you can use fresh or dried. So even if you're not into red, I think it's worth tucking crocosmia in somewhere so you can have that great textural element. So as you can see, the garden over here is starting to look pretty sparse. I've been cutting really heavily from it, selling lilies pretty much non-stop, and will continue to do so until this garden is basically completely cut, and all we're left with is basically our shrubs to carry us through. Well friends, thanks so much for spending some time with me out here in the garden on a sunny, hot Pennsylvania day. We'll see how this grass is looking for the late July garden tour. Fingers crossed there's at least something that pops out of the ground. But for now, I want to wish you a wonderful day, and of course, happy gardening. Bye! Hi friends, good morning. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today we're going to be doing a garden tour that focuses on my favorite flower, the hydrangea. So I'll be touring you through all my different garden rooms. We'll start here in the hydrangea room, but we also have tons of hydrangeas in the main flower walk, around the raised beds, in the driveway garden, and also in nooks and crannies here and there, all around my different gardens. So I thought, let's take a look at all the gardens in late July here in Zone 6B, Southern Pennsylvania. And I'll talk about which ones I really love, which is pretty much all of them, and just share what they look like here in Zone 6B. So let's just start right here in the hydrangea room. This is a garden that I created 2 years ago. The right side of the border had been here for a few years, and the left side and the arbors and the path I have just recently added on. But everything is already filling in nicely, and I'm really happy about that. So let's just get a close-up on all these hydrangeas. I'll try to also reference how old they are, and if there's anything that I don't like about them or that I really love about them, I'll talk about that as well. So the very first one we see here is Invincible Mini Mauvette. And by late July, all of the smooth hydrangeas that are naturally pink have faded to either green or a very dusty pink. So Mini Mauvette has turned kind of a dusty green pink at this point. This hydrangea I really love for its strength and its size. This is Invincible Limetta, and I don't see this one a lot around here, but I would highly, highly recommend it. It blooms white, quickly fades to green, really small bracts on Invincible Limetta, and this is its mature size. I would say in my garden it's about 3 by 3 feet. Now moving on from Limetta, we hit another Mini Mauvette, which had previously been living in a pot for a few years, and I can talk a little bit about hydrangeas in pots if you like. This larger Panicle hydrangea, which I just have to show you this view because this is one of my favorite views all season long. Just looking past this Panicle hydrangea and into the neighboring main flower walk. But this hydrangea is Strawberry Sunday. Really big panicles on Strawberry Sunday. Starts out white, will then fade to pink from the base up to the tip. A great hydrangea. Nice coloring on the stems also, almost a bronze color to the stems, and you can see how far back I cut it. I do have a few videos on cutting hydrangeas for the vase and also pruning them if you're interested. So now let's go ahead and walk through what I call Hummingbird Way. I like to call this garden the hydrangea room because I really wanted you to feel like you are surrounded by hydrangeas, that you are really in a full-on room of hydrangeas. Here we have another mini mauvette fading to a dusty pink brown. Back behind it is Haas Halo, and let me get a view from a different direction. Sometimes people ask me what the best hydrangea is for the pollinators, and I would definitely say Haas Halo. Haas Halo blooms white, fades to this beautiful lime green, and holds that lime green color for many months. The bees absolutely adore it. I'm not sure if I see a lot of butterflies overall on hydrangeas, but definitely with those beautiful open blooms, they love Haas Halo. Down from Haas Halo is what I think, at least, is Little Quickfire. And let me know if you think I'm right about that, but I recently bought some more Little Quickfires, and they look just like this. The tag on it said 3 to 5 feet tall and wide, so we'll see how that goes. Sorry about that Hydrangea that's going over there. I need to deadhead it. But here we have Invincible Spirit 2, which is now turned green for the season, and it will remain that way until the fall when it turns brown. Down from that we have Invincible Wee White. I've heard some people have trouble with Invincible Wee White with the blooms burning out. You can see I'm having a little bit of a problem with that, but it is a nice small compact size. But if you have room for Limetta, I think you might prefer that one. Looking into the distance, we're seeing the main flower walk without being in it, and we see a limelight hydrangea in the distance and an Annabelle. I believe that the patent has expired on Annabelle, so you can propagate it. However, it's quite floppy, so I would still go ahead and purchase the Incredible. But let's take a look from the other direction. And from this side, we can see Invincible Lace, which I would also highly recommend. This is only the second year that I've had Invincible Lace, but it's just covered with blooms. The bees love it, not quite as much as they love Haas Halo, but they still do enjoy it. And I just love how it looks a little more natural, a little bit more woodsy. And so all of these are either smooth hydrangeas, are the ones with the rounded bloom heads, or Panicle hydrangeas. Those are the ones with the more panicle or football-like bloom heads. And so let's travel around to the other side, which is only a year old at this point. And you can see another Invincible Lace here in the front. And here is the white smooth hydrangea that I would recommend in place of Annabelle. And sometimes you read things and you're not sure how true it is or not, but I can definitely attest to Incredible is so much better than Annabelle. Annabelle is probably the only hydrangea that I would take out of my garden because of how floppy it is. And it's just got really great big blooms, reliable. And I just put this in last year, and it was really small last year, and look how big it is already. So for the front garden that I'm doing a complete makeover on, it's going to have tons of Incredible hydrangeas. The hydrangea room is being watched over by this Macintosh tree, which I can show you now. It's a beautiful morning, already quite busy here. But here's another Haas Halo that we put in, once again, from a very small pot. I'm thinking it was maybe just a 1-gallon pot, and it's already nice and big. This Haas halo is basically in the shade all day, so the stems aren't quite as strong as the one over next to my garage there that gets full sun all day. And then another invincible lace, just to try to carry us through and repeat that pattern. So now let's head over to the raised beds where I have some hydrangeas in pots. And the back of the raised bed garden also has a small hedge of limelight prime hydrangea, which I am hoping to increase the number of limelight prime hydrangeas. On both sides of Hummingbird Way, we do have Invincible Ruby, which maintains the pink color a little bit longer than Mini Mauvette, and definitely longer than Invincible Spirit. Right in front of us, we have a limelight hydrangea. I'm afraid I have a dahlia that is kind of smothering and covering it at the moment. But as I turn us toward the raised bed garden, I have 2 little quick fire hydrangeas in pots because I just couldn't resist them at the nursery the other day. I have a really big problem with controlling myself and my wallet when it comes to little quick fire hydrangeas, or any hydrangea for that matter. I apologize, I have not cleaned or swept up the deck. This is a real life garden tour this morning, but I guess you can see that the birds like sitting near the hydrangeas too. So this is little quick fire. It will eventually get 3 to 5 feet tall and wide, but I love the openness of the bloom. I love how it fades to kind of a green before hitting that beautiful vibrant red color. It does really well in pots for me, and these 2 are destined for the driveway garden, which we'll see in a second. But let's go ahead and walk through the raised bed garden so that we can see limelight prime. It looks like the sun is hitting limelight prime at the moment, so hopefully we can see it all right. If you watch The Impatient Gardener, which I absolutely love Erin, I'm sure you all do too, I've been influenced to plant some bananas over here in my raised beds, and we are in transition over here. We have the gold light sunflowers, pro-cut plum sunflowers ready for cutting, a little bit past ready for cutting really. So before we take a look at the very back corner of the garden, I wanted to show you this view. This is a really nice view, and I should probably put some chairs back here. I'm going to be redoing the entire garden that you are about to see behind us and turning it into a white garden with lots of hydrangeas and a structure that is going to replace the compost pile. The compost pile is going to be relocated. But I do really love the view from back here. You're able to see all of the limelight hydrangeas. Also, if we sneak over here to where I have the lounge chairs, which are kind of impractical because it's really buggy over here. So if you have any tips on mosquito control, let me know. I'm trying Doug Tallamy's mosquito bucket, but I don't know if I just have too many or if it's the kind of mosquito I have back here. But it's really hard for me to get control of the mosquito I have, which is Asian tiger mosquito. But this is the view from the deck. So you can see most of the hydrangeas from this area. And I like having the combination of these smooth and panicle hydrangeas so that you always have something new in bloom. So now let's take a look at the hydrangeas in the main flower walk. We're standing here right next to my kitchen window, and the first hydrangea that we see is another incredible. And then we're going to hit some older and much larger panicle hydrangeas. So right here we have a really beautiful one called Firelight. The blooms on Firelight start out this wonderful ivory color. Then they quickly change color, turning slightly to green, but more so turn from ivory to this wonderful deep pink, almost a red color. In past years, I have had issues with firelight going from ivory to brown. I am assuming, and I'm not totally sure here, but I'm assuming that's happening because of all the moisture and the intense heat that we get here in southern Pennsylvania. But this year it's been quite dry, and so it seems like firelight has really been able to shine for the first time ever. And we still do have some browning on the panicles, but so much better than in previous years. The largest panicle hydrangeas that I have on the property are found in the main flower walk and in the corner of my garden that is turning into a garden railroad. So we have 3 limelight hydrangeas that are in view from the main flower walk. This one right next to me is easily at least 9 to 10 feet tall. It is the last day in July, and so you can see almost in full bloom, but the tips are not in full bloom yet. Beautiful pure ivory color at this point in the season. Sorry about the grass. I had a fungal disease hit my grass, and so it's currently being reseeded. But I couldn't let that stop me from filming a hydrangea tour for you because it's so beautiful. Directly in front of us is another limelight hydrangea, and then to the side of us, yet another. And it seems to me that where I'm located, by year 5, they are pretty much their full size. And I do have one that I will show you that is probably 18 years old at this point, that I moved from our previous home. And it's the same size as all of these. So in my area, they seem to top out at around 9 to 10 feet tall and wide. And the harder I prune them, the stronger they tend to be. Now we have one more limelight hydrangea here. And this one that you're going to see next to my stone rug is probably only about 4 years old. So let's see if next year it reaches that 9-foot height that I'm talking about. We have another hydrangea tucked back behind here, and this one is growing slowly. I do see some Japanese beetle activity on it, but it's not horrible. So this one is Gatsby Gal oak leaf hydrangea. It starts out white, ages to a beautiful lime and then a red. Wonderful fall color, but you can see the damage there on the leaves. And I'm hoping that this one will grow to that 6 by 6 feet tall and wide so that I can start to really prune this burning bush back heavily. And eventually I want to get rid of the burning bush altogether and just have a beautiful hedge of different hydrangeas here. So if you can imagine in your mind's eye, the limelight is bigger, it's 9 feet tall, Rocky stays the same size. Imagine the oak leaf hydrangea bigger, Incredible is there, and then we have all of those limelights down the path. I probably do need to come in with another limelight right here behind my big hosta. So maybe we'll do that in a few weeks' time when things start to cool off. Here comes Buddy to say hello. I forgot to show you this earlier. So before we head over to the driveway garden where we do have quite a large amount of hydrangeas, I'll just pop briefly back here to the corner of our property to show you Limelight Prime. I have 3 Limelight Primes in the back of the property, and the back here is very undeveloped, I guess you would say. Limelight Prime for me has smaller panicle blooms. It's a little bit shorter than Limelight. This one is 3 years old. It's probably about 4 feet tall and wide at this point. It's supposed to get a little bit bigger. The one thing I like about Limelight Prime versus Limelight, and sorry about all the weeds back here, it does turn to more of a vivid green and hold that vivid green color for a longer period of time. And then when it changes from green to deep raspberry, that deep raspberry is also much more vivid. So limelight turns more of a antique soft green and then a soft subtle antique pink. Limelight prime is much more vivid in terms of the colors. Okay, Rocky, in terms of the colors that it changes into. So this is one final look. Oh dear, what is about to happen right here? This is my second planting of late season sunflowers, and that's Sunflower Steve's Marley mix right there. Always good to have a playmate, isn't it? So now let's follow Buddy over to the driveway garden and take a look at how that's doing in terms of panicle hydrangeas. So there's a decent amount of hydrangeas here in my driveway garden. However, this is really a very young garden. It's only about 3 years old. So all the hydrangeas in terms of the final picture look a little bit silly at this point. As we look straight ahead, I'm happy. We have the Invincible Spirit hedge that's 3 years old, 6 Invincible Spirit there surrounding the bird bath, 2 Little Lime Punch hydrangeas on either side. And these are supposed to age to a beautiful deep cranberry and a vibrant lime. So I'll keep you updated on how that color change goes. But we have to use our imagination because the large panicle hydrangeas in the back of this garden are Limelight filling in the gap there, Limelight Prime, Pinky Winky, Pufferfish, and also Quickfire Fab. And they are all very young at this point or have been recently moved. And so I'm almost set them back in terms of maturity, but we can take a closer look at their blooms. Here is Quickfire Fab, and it almost looks like a starfish when you get close to it. Here's Limelight, Limelight Prime, Pinky Winky, which is my favorite panicle hydrangea for cutting. Pufferfish has this cute tuft at the top of it, and if I pull us directly up from Pufferfish, there you can see my oldest Limelight hydrangea that is about, I would say, maybe 17 years old, pretty much exactly the same height as the one that I put in 6 years ago. If you ask me, you can never have enough hydrangeas, and I'd certainly rather have one jean shirt from the late 90s and hundreds of hydrangeas to enjoy instead. And I think my friend Buddy would agree. So friends, let me know how many hydrangeas you have in your garden. Please let me know if you have a favorite hydrangea. I'm always looking for suggestions, and I try to add in all the ones that you suggest into my garden so that we can watch them grow and bloom together. But for now, I want to wish you a wonderful day. Fingers crossed the grass will eventually grow, but until then, I'll just comfort myself by naturally purchasing more and more hydrangeas. Bye friends! Good morning friends, I hope you're having a wonderful day. It is currently late September, and Grace and I are excited to be able to give you a tour of the gardens today. We are expecting a big tropical storm tomorrow. So as it seems it always is with some of these garden tours, it's kind of now or never. But let's go ahead and go bed by bed. So right here in this bed, we have what is either Binary Lime or Green Envy Zinnia. I can't remember because it was saved seed. And all of my zinnias have powdery mildew at this point in the growing season. You can see some bees are still asleep on the celosia this morning. And over here from Save Seed, this is Binary Giant Coral. And then next to that is Binary Giant Pink. Whoops, broke that head. The bees and butterflies have really been enjoying these zinnias. Next up, we have our Saving Grace Dahlia seedlings, and I've stopped deadheading these so that I have time to harvest lots and lots of seed from them so that I can send all the winter's seed. In this front bed, we have apricot peach straw flower. Such a beautiful straw flower. I'm also supposed to have king raspberry rose in this bed, but I think I might have mixed up my seed because it seems like it's mainly just the apricot peach. What we also have going on in this area are some vegetables. We have lots of great peppers. Here we have one of my favorite peppers to make stuffed Italian peppers. This is Big Bertha. Let's go ahead and pick one together. Isn't that beautiful? And over there we have banana, cherry red, and cayennes. These climbing nasturtiums are just getting started up the 5-foot trellises. Only a few blooms on those so far. And then in the center beds, I have these variegated bananas. This one on the left is really getting tall. It's probably about 6 feet now. And you can see some red amaranth towering high above that. I'm really excited to show you the sunflower succession that I have back there, so we'll make sure we circle around before we leave the raised bed area. But let me back up slowly so I can show you how the raised beds shaped up this year, since we put so much time and attention into turning this area into its own garden room. I think it turned out really nice. I think there's definitely room for improvement. One thing I would like to do is maybe get some different Adirondack chairs, something that has a more vintage feel. I'm hoping to just find some used chairs somewhere, something that is old versus buying something new. But I'm hoping to get rid of these plastic chairs at some point in the future. Some people had been asking me what this plant is that I have surrounding the deck. And this is Diamond Mountain Euphorbia. I wanted to pick something that stayed in flower all the time, but that was of more interest to flies versus bees, because I didn't want people to be sitting here and feel uncomfortable if they were allergic to bees or anything like that. So that's why I picked the Diamond Mountain Euphorbia. Now I definitely want to show you how beautiful the cup and saucer vine is looking. So we have cup and saucer vine climbing up both of the 7-foot trellises in the front of the garden. I think I have 2 plants on this trellis and 3 or 4 plants on the other, and 2 is probably better. The one on the other trellis, it's almost pulling the trellis down. It's too heavy. So my hope is that by the end of the growing season, the cup and saucer vine has the opportunity to continue to grow towards the center of this string of party lights. And then this other trellis here hopefully will meet it halfway. And so we'll really have the entire area framed with cup and saucer vine. I thought that would be really, really beautiful. And my experience with cup and saucer vine is that it really does take a long time to come into flower. So if you're just starting to see flowers on yours, I think that is the way that they grow. At least that's been my experience growing them. So before we head over to the main flower walk and the hydrangea room and all those other good areas, I definitely want to show you this sunflower succession over here. And we have some more zinnias that we saved the seed from last year. So we'll be harvesting all these together pretty much immediately following this video. So this is Sunflower Steve's Marley Mix. It's so hard to pick a favorite when it comes to these sunflowers because each one is so unique and different. I'm not really sure which one I like the best. Let me know what you think. And you can really see this amaranth here, how huge it is. And I'm not going to be selling that. I'm saving all of that for our dried flower wildlife tree. Ooh, that's a tongue twister. So I have these planted at 6 by 6 inches. I think I'm happy with that spacing. Might even go a little bit closer for the type of bouquet that I like to do at the flower stand. But this will be great, and I'll be really interested to see if these sell well or not, because sometimes it's hard to sell bouquets that have mainly dark flowers. I just think they're a little bit hard to see from the road. Down from that we have Queen Lime Red, and we had saved the seed from this zinnia together last year. And you can see all of these zinnias have powdery mildew at this point, so they're fairly unusable. And then in the way back, what we'll also be cutting later on today is more of the saved celosia. The snail vine has put on one flower, but it's really been a disappointment. If it does flower later on in the season, I'll make sure and capture it for you, but I'm not sure what I did wrong there. The vine's not happy. Only one of the seeds germinated. I think I'll have to try it again next year. Hopefully we have a little more success. So that is how the raised bed garden is shaping up this year. I have an update on the floral library for you. I've been talking to some carpenters, and it seems like going with a carpenter is probably the only way to go, especially as I was able to discover some pictures of what I'm looking for. They all had, basically reclaimed windows, reclaimed barn wood, and they were just very original looking. And so when I was talking to different shed companies, they were even recommending that I go with a carpenter instead. So I'm just starting down the journey of finding the right carpenter for us. But now we find ourselves over at the hydrangea room, and we went up into the really high 90s for about a week at the beginning of September. And all of my Panicle hydrangeas, with the exception of Firelight, surprisingly, basically got brown and crispy during the course of that week. So I almost feel like the garden looks like it's October, even though I believe today is September 21st. So I did go ahead, put a few pumpkins here and there. Nothing too crazy. But it's a nice peaceful view over here, but I'm still looking to add in that pink color that I've been talking about for at least a year now, and I think I have decided to go with either a very light pink gaura or a white gaura and plant that en masse all throughout the garden. I had seen that planting combination over at Longwood Gardens. If I can find a picture on my phone, I'll put it on the screen now. But I think that would really add some nice texture to the garden and nice color in August, which is where it's really lacking. So now let's travel down the main flower walk. It's starting to definitely feel like fall over here. You can see the burning bush is turning red in the distance. And Ophelia came through and it watered in the grass really well. So I'm so thankful to have the grass starting to reappear. And I put the stones back in as well. This time of year, I'm really reliant on my shrubs to carry me through the remainder of the growing season. So we've got a sprinter boxwood right here. This shrub I love, it's evergreen, it's a gold splash euonymus. We have some purple heuchera, and we have the 9-bark here. This is tiny wine or summer wine 9-bark. Sorry, I can't recall, I bought it too long ago before I started to keep good track of what's what here in the garden. Also, Saving Grace's babies here in the border are starting to bloom. And it's nice to have them in the garden because at this point in the growing season, as I say, pretty much everything has been cut. And some of these are passing now, but this one was Messy Bun. And these are all daughters of Saving Grace Dahlia. I think next year I'll definitely do a lot more magenta. I was trying for that peach this year that I told you about, but I think I'd rather have hints of peach and primarily magenta. I think that will be nicer, and I'll be able to see that a little bit better too. Some of you might recall I have really bad eyesight. So here we have Carmine Gomphrena. I wasn't sure about this Gomphrena at first, but the more I cut it, the more I like it. It does have less foliage than the QIS series, which I'm used to growing. So I just stuck a few pumpkins here, there, and everywhere. Here are some more seed dahlias on the right-hand side of the border. I don't think we named this one because I thought it looked just like Saving Grace, so I wasn't sure what to call it. And then this is the dahlia. Let me scoot into the border here. You see some goldenrod there in the background looking beautiful. Let me grab this one. This one I'm going to name after my daughter. This one is going to be Sophie's Joy or Sophia's Joy. I'm not sure yet. Last year I had mentioned that I was having trouble with this shrub, which is a coral berry, and last year the berries were all turning brown. This year it's doing a lot better. I cut some, left them out on the table by accident. They still looked pretty good a few days later, so I thought that was good to know. I think one thing I'll do, oh, look at that weed right there. I think I'll go ahead and move this roof somewhere else next year, just so maybe we can put a nice big annual right there that flowers all the time. Speedwell still in bloom over here. And I'm just repeating that Carmine Gomphrena on both sides of the border multiple times. Here's our flower lady. And this area I have cleared out because I put in a whole bunch of cool flowers, and I'm hoping to put a bunch of bulbs in here too. So we planted a bunch of larkspur right there, and I started to clean up this area in preparation for my bulb delivery, which I think is going to get here in about a week and a half. But I love the shrubs in this area. Ginger wine 9 bark behind this older boxwood. Back behind that, a hinoki cypress. And there's a big elephant ear kind of tucked in to the garden border back there. But this basically brings us back to where we left off. And so that's how these gardens connect. The main flower walk leads you straight ahead to our raised bed gardens. Now let's go ahead and head over to the driveway garden where I'm making some changes, and I really need your advice on which direction to go. So let me show you how these two areas connect. Oh, there goes Rocky. So I guess I'm kind of really going for a pumpkin patch look throughout all the gardens. Down here I have some variegated liriope. And there's another elephant ear in here, but I don't think it was getting enough sun over in this garden. It never really amounted to much like that other one did. So if we exit through this gate, this is where we see the driveway garden. So my plan moving forward with the driveway garden is to bring in more symmetry and a little more formality. So what I've started to do is divide the liriope that has always been located on the left side of this garden. And I've taken the catmint that was on the right side of the garden and sprinkled it throughout the garden, while at the same time putting those liriope divisions on the right side. And so now the liriope lines the entire edge of the driveway garden versus just the left side, and I really like how that looks, and I think it will quickly fill in again next year. Everything looks a little bit sad and limp as I've been dividing and moving things around all week. Here is the new pathway. So instead of having it loop you through the driveway garden, I've decided to have one pathway take you out towards where people like to park, and this other pathway is basically going to stop right here, and I'm going to put a bistro set in here. And what I'm really wondering is, should I do another stone rug under this bistro set, or is that going to look really strange since I don't have any stone hardscaping in this area? So please let me know what you think about that. I'm totally undecided on it, and I definitely don't want to purchase a bunch of stones if that's not the right direction to take that area. But I thought a bistro set almost for the birds would be kind of fun over there. And of course, my main goal here with all of this is to tie the front garden, which is now a formal garden. And here I've even created this small corner garden. I brought in boxwood there. That's where I have my garden railroad. I want to basically tie the front, the formality of the front, into the looseness of the back via this driveway garden. Well, friends, I think that brings us to the end of the September garden tour. I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. My family and I appreciate you all so, so much. We'll see you sometime soon, friends. Bye. Good morning, friends. Danielle here. Today we're going to be doing a different kind of garden walk and talk. Today I'm going to be sharing with you 10 garden design mistakes that I've made over the last 8 years of building out my gardens from scratch. So the first mistake that I made was that I did not put a privacy fence over here on the south side of our property. Now we're on a corner lot, so we are not allowed to have a tall privacy fence where people can walk by and walk around the corner. However, we could have installed a privacy fence on this side of the property. But my thought at the time was that I didn't want to spend the money on the fence. I believe, to be honest with you, we did not have the money to spend on a fence. So I bought small shrubs and trees at the time, and they've all grown up and filled in quite nicely. However, in retrospect, it has taken a full 8 years for this shrub and evergreen border to fill in. And so that's 7 years of my life where I had no privacy in this garden. My neighbors could just look in and see what I was doing. People that walked by could see in. There are houses also that are much taller than ours, so we had neighbors peering in from above. And I think in retrospect, I would have rather planted nothing the first 2 years and had the privacy fence instead. So that is what I consider my first garden design mistake. Garden design mistake number 2 is what we're looking at right here. It's basically, I created pathways that were too skinny. So there was no garden borders when we first moved in. I dug these out by hand, and gradually over time, as anyone who loves plants will tell you, you buy plants and then you need to find a place for them. And so as time goes on, you end up with more gardens and less grass, which is great. I am all for that. But this pathway is so skinny that 2 people can barely walk through this portion side by side. And because we have animals and family coming over, and because this is the main way people like to walk through the garden, it is getting really heavy foot traffic. And in retrospect, I should have kept the width of this border probably about 4 feet wide, and it's probably only about 2.5 feet at this time. The next mistake that I made, so garden design mistake number 3, is not taking into consideration how the tree's mature sizes would affect my sunlight. So we're probably all used to hearing about right plant, right place. People are constantly saying, make sure you give your shrubs and trees the width that they need. And I did that, but I never heard anyone say, what's this going to do to your sunlight? Where is the sun? What's this tree going to block? Besides the view you're trying to block, I was trying to block the view of this house, which I did, but I also blocked all my sunlight until about 2 o'clock. Because the sun rises over here above the garage, and then it's behind this Japanese cedar, and so the cedar actually blocks the sun from coming in. and shining on my main flower walk. And so what once was an area that was full sun and had really good airflow now has a relatively poor airflow and little to no sun. The sun does not come and shine on these plants until about 1 or 2 o'clock. And that's something that I read that I disagree with a little bit. Well, let me back up. So when you get into cut flowers, you will often hear, put a windbreak around your property. So I did that. And what I've started to wonder over the years, as everything has gotten a lot bigger, is by creating these windbreaks, have I increased the mosquito population because there's basically almost no airflow through the property? Because you might be able to see we are pretty much fully surrounded by trees and shrubs at this point, because I thought I have to surround all my cut flowers with the windbreak so that they don't all fall over. So let me know what you think about that. I could definitely be wrong. Now, the next mistake I made, which, you know, some of these mistakes are just par for the course and part of growing up and also trying to build a garden on a really tight budget. But what I did early on was I would just buy basically all my plants from roadside stands. However, I would bring them home and I would plant them, and I would fail to do the very important step of checking the root system for weeds, specifically things like bindweed or bishop's weed, and I didn't wash the root systems, which in retrospect, I really wish I would have done that, because now I have bindweed in a couple of my borders. I have bishop's weed over in the driveway garden and in the front garden, and I am certain without a shadow of a doubt I picked up both of those things from roadside plants. So in a way, I was thinking to myself, I'm going to save myself a lot of time and money. Well, not time, but I'm going to save myself a lot of money buying these roadside plants. But what happened is now I have all of these invasive weeds, so I wish I would have never bought those plants to begin with. Just something that I never thought about. So here we are at the raised bed garden. I don't know what Grace is getting up to tonight. One other thing that I didn't think about, so in a way it's a mistake, is how much maintenance I was creating for myself as I built out all of these gardens. So we've been living here for 8 years. I'm almost 38 now. And although I have lots of energy and I'm super excited about gardening and garden design, I just don't have all the time in the world. I'm a wife, a mother, I work a full-time job, I do YouTube on the side, I sell cut flowers on the side. I'm a busy lady and I like life that way. But with that being said, the maintenance has increased as the gardens have increased. And I think I would like to have a little less maintenance, only so I can keep every garden under control to a certain extent. Now, I love a wild look, but I'm not going for a mess of a garden, of course, and sometimes that just happens and life happens and that's okay. But it's just something I didn't even think about when I was getting started, because when we started, there was nothing here. And I was just so excited to build one garden and then build another garden and another garden. And all of a sudden, I had all of these high maintenance gardens, no low maintenance gardens. And because I'm selling cut flowers on a small scale, I'm always succession planting, which just in and of itself is a lot of time and maintenance. So that was something that I definitely learned the hard way. And if I was to build another garden from scratch, I would definitely ask myself, how much time do I want to spend in this garden maintaining it? The next mistake I made was that I did not consider what the next owner of this house would want in a garden. And this is something that requires a little bit of story time to really understand where I'm coming from here. So it was either June or July, we were getting ready to put our house on the market. And our real estate agent came over to take a look at everything. And I could tell that she did not like the gardens, and mainly that she thought that all of these gardens were going to be problematic in selling the house. She basically said, and I love her, I'm not speaking negatively of this conversation at all, I'm just telling you what I learned from this. But she basically said, you know, it's going to be a very, very specific buyer that's going to want this house and want all of the maintenance involved in all of these gardens. And not only that, it was funny. She basically walked through my back gardens really, really quickly, didn't really look at them much at all. And she focused very, very heavily on the front garden and the driveway garden. And you guys know, if you follow me, and if you've been following me for a long time, not only do I not spend any time working in those gardens, but I don't even really like them. So upon hearing that from her and taking her advice, I went ahead and renovated that front garden, tried to make it look nice, formal, but still use plants that I love, still use plants that are in the backyard to try to tie the two areas together. But that's something that I never thought about. Another mistake I made, or another issue that I have and I want to correct, didn't show itself until the property, 2 properties over, sold and turned from a wildflower meadow into a house and lawn. And that problem is that I do not have a big enough compost pile for the size of my garden and the type of gardening that I'm doing. So I'm growing. Grace is just the best, isn't she? I love her so much. Grace, I love your face. What was I saying? I'm easily distracted by Grace. Right, so I don't have a big enough compost pile to deal with all of the flowers that I'm processing and all of the succession planting that I'm doing. However, when we first moved here, the gentleman that owned the wildflower meadow, he let us take all of our garden debris over to his yard, and he would burn it for everyone because his property is a lot bigger than ours. I think he might have about maybe 2.5 to 3 acres over there. But once he sold that property, we were really left with a conundrum. And now I fill up the back of the truck with garden debris, and we have to pay $25 per load to have it composted. So that's a new mistake or new situation that I'm dealing with and that I need to address. The next mistake I made was that I did not bring in a professional to help me deal with all of the runoff issues that I have in the main flower walk. So if you see our house here, and our garage is kind of a part of the garden, there are many gutters that all run directly into the central portion of this area and basically collect where these stones are. And despite me trying to, I build up this area year after year after year, and it seems like it just gets washed away. And no matter how level I have it at some point in May, inevitably it slopes back down, and then the way that the land is, it goes back up slightly, then my neighbor's property goes up slightly, and so really I have this incredibly shallow bowl. And so whenever it rains, which happens a lot, it rained today, it's going to rain tomorrow, the water just collects right here and sits right here. And even within these 2 borders, it's always very wet. If you can see, the soil's wet right now. It's generally always wet when I go to dig. So I wish I would have hired a professional to help me deal with this issue, whether we needed to reroute the water or regrade this whole land back here. I don't know, and probably I couldn't even afford that. But if I could afford it, that's definitely something that I would do. Another mistake that I made, and once again, it's just because we couldn't afford it when we moved in, was that I didn't try to fix any of the ugly or unsightly areas that border my gardens. So you can see the driveway is cracked, coming up in some areas. My husband and I are not even sure what's going on with this grass weed area. There was a huge pine tree right here when we moved in. We cut that down. It was our first ever Christmas tree. And a neighbor told us she thought the previous owner's dog was buried right there. So we really haven't touched it for a number of reasons. But can you imagine if this wasn't there and the driveway had a nice clean sealer on it, or maybe if it was gravel? That's something that we never addressed, and it affects the way that my gardens look. And my final mistake is purchasing plants on clearance for the sole purpose that they were on clearance, rather than doing proper research on how the plant grows and how it grows in my specific climate. So this plant back here that has powdery mildew is goji berry, and I recall a nursery near me was trying to clear out their inventory of goji berry. I think it was originally maybe $35 or $40 a plant, and they said, we'll sell you all of these goji berry plants, hey buddy, for $5. And so without understanding how they grew, I purchased them all and placed them here just because they were on clearance. Well, you can see it's turned into quite a mess as things like mulberry and pokeweed have started to grow through it. But mainly, I didn't know that it was highly susceptible to powdery mildew, which is a big issue in my area. I also didn't realize that it roots very easily upon touching the ground, and it has this really long taproot, so it's almost impossible to completely eradicate. So that's my final mistake, is I basically purchased those plants only because they were on clearance versus actually knowing that I wanted that particular plant in my garden. Well friends, there's my 10 garden design mistakes, or maybe it's better to say these are 10 things that I would do differently if I could design this garden all over again. And if I ever have the opportunity to design a new garden, these are definitely things I will take into consideration as I build out a brand new garden. I'd love to hear about things that you've learned designing your garden. It doesn't really need to be called a mistake. Let's just call it a lesson learned. I think that's much more appropriate when it comes to gardening. Well friends, I'm headed off today because I'm going to hear a lecture by Francis Palmer, one of my favorite artists. So for now, I want to wish you all a wonderful day out there in your gardens. I have 9 ginormous bulb boxes sitting at the front door, so we'll be getting right back to work here in the garden really soon. Bye friends!